And it's because they have been always looking for pitching. Pitching is their calling card. Pitching is what they believe. Pitching is what they're scouring for and looking for, which I understand. But they have not produced a lot of everyday players. They have not. And they've let some get away, but they really have not produced a lot either. Dave and Deal either. Dave, what's up?
What's going on, Mike?
What's happening?
No, nothing. You just brought up a point about the Mets, and my whole thing, I really want to jump in on the finals, but just one point on that is, it's a different generation now. Young hitting trumps young pitching.
It's not that it trumps it. It won't beat it in a close series or a big series, but as you go to develop your team now, finding and developing and keeping healthy premium starting pitching is so hard that you have to build your team around young everyday players.
No, for sure. So totally agree. Now, going into the first two games of the finals,
right.
Of course, coming in, everyone, Golden State and this and that. Now, you look at game one, I'm sure you probably saw some of that.
What's the point? What's the point you're trying to make?
Did you have? Well, there's 2 points. A is, did you hear Donaghy after game one, the ex-ref with the?
I don't care what he had to say. I'm not whatever he would say would mean nothing to me. So what else you got?
He pointed.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. To me, he has no valid opinion that I care about. What else you got?
Well, yeah, but the thing is,
what else do you have? I'm not interested in his. See, to me, he lost all right to talk about the game. He has. I don't want to hear from him. I have no interest in what he said. Whether he liked the call or didn't like the call, it makes no difference to me. Go ahead. What else you got?
He pointed out more of a double call.
I don't care what. I don't care. Whatever he pointed out is worthless. What else? Go ahead.
You look at Golden State's percentages, 57, 42 respectively overall, shooting wise. Cavs were in that game for most of it. I might be the only person.
Cavs were not in that game. I mean, the Cavs were they never got with.
It was 6-7.
They were never. Golden State was toying with them in that game. They were never in that game in the second half. That game was never a game that Golden State was ever in danger of losing. Ever. That game was a game that the only question was whether they were going to lose by 10 or lose by 20. There was never a question of them winning that game, ever, ever. And you cannot play defense like they did. And the thing is, they did a terrible job of protecting the front of the rim in that game. They have got to keep Thompson on the floor. He has got to be there. They don't have a chance without him playing. He has got to play because he can be a rim protector. They have to have that. He also is an offensive rebounder, which Cleveland has done well in the series, is offensive rebound. The key of winning Game 3 is to maximize LeBron points. You do that by minimizing possessions so that the game becomes a game in the high 90s to 100 rather than 110, 120. So you make LeBron's 40 be far more important than they are at 100. In a 120 game, they're less important than they are at a 98 game. So you want to make it a 98 99 game. You don't want to make it a 120 game. You want to control the tempo, and you do that by running when you can. When you have opportunity breaks, you take them. But when you don't, you set up and you take your sweet time and you run the play off the elbow with LeBron, which they run all the time. Run it, set up your pick and roll, run your stuff off there, let LeBron throw passes off it, whether it's off penetration or from where he is at the top. It doesn't make any difference. Just let him run the offense from there try to get the matchup you want. If Curry's in the game, you're trying to pick and roll with his guy. So we all know what they're trying to do. And just slow the game down from there, and that's their chance to win because they cannot allow guys like McGee to go in there and make every shot. Or Livingston, who is a guy who is a short range, is a medium shooter. He is not a long distance shooter. He is a guy who is going to shoot the ball from 12, 10, 12, 13 feet. And that's where he gets his baskets. Those two guys, nothing on the perimeter for them, were 11 for 11. It can't happen. They cannot win if that's the case. Ron and Woodmere, what's up, Ron?
Hi, Mike. Great to have you back.
Thank you. What's happening? What's happening?
Good. I have a comment to make, and if you cannot just disconnect me until after my question.
Just go ahead, ask it.
With reception there. Okay. You said that the Yankees traded Chapman, and they got Torres in the trade, and therefore, if the Mets were to make a trade with the Yankees, that would be the beginning step of that trade.
No, and that's not what I said. What I said was if I were the Mets, I would ask for him.
Right, because I just want to make one point, Mike, that when the Yankees traded Chapman, They traded for Torres, who was 19 years old in A-ball.
Doesn't matter. He's top prospect, top prospect. That's the bottom line. Okay. Torres is a top prospect then. He's a top prospect now. Everybody knows he was a top prospect in the organization then. He's still a top prospect in the Yankee organization. He's still a young man now. He's 21 years old, and he's still a top prospect. If you were going to give them DeGrom, you're going to ask for a guy like that. Otherwise, you wouldn't make the deal because you want to get back a proven player. The Yankees got back a proven player, and they want to get back a proven player. That's what you would do. I mean, if I'm the Mets, I'm going to ask for him. And if they say no, well, then they're going to have to give me a lot to make up for the fact that he's not in the deal, because otherwise I'm going to want him to be in the deal. Rick in Florida. What's up, Rick?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
What's happening?
Good weekend to be in New York. Some great things with the Yankees and the Belmont.
Well, hopefully.
Looks like the Belmont, will be a dry track. And, what I was thinking is that maybe since Good Magic is not running, with him running in the first two races, Justify seemed to love that battle with him in both of those races. You think that's what Baffer's thinking about? Because Justify should go, with a long race, you go to the front, toy with them, and then just pull away. Do you think he's putting him in there maybe to be another kind of Good Magic?
No, I have no understanding of why he would be in the race. Why you would want your horse to duel with another horse. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. And they wouldn't duel anyway. I mean, whether he doesn't want the lead for some reason. I never knew that he was a horse that didn't want the lead for some reason. Even on a slow lead, he's already won that way. It would seem to be the easiest way to win that race. I don't understand his presence. He could be getting pressure from another owner to put him in the race. I just don't understand his presence, to be honest with you. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The easiest way for Justify to win that race is to do just that. Go out, set a leisurely first half, and then just run away and start to click off faster fractions as he turns. Click off faster fraction, a faster quarter every time as you head towards the wire, and just put everybody in your wake. That's the easiest way to win that race. Winning that race from behind is hard. Winning that race from the front is the easiest way to win it, especially if you have a big horse. Mike in Jersey. What's up, Mike?
How are you, Mike?
What's happening?
I just wanted to know, how are the Yankees expected to go deep in the playoffs or anything if none of their big-time players get hot and none of them are hitting consistently?
How are they supposed to get to the playoffs?
No, they'll get to the playoffs.
I don't understand that. Yeah, so how are you going to predict? How are you going to predict now how they're going to hit in the playoffs?
Well, I don't know how they're going to hit in the playoffs, but I've seen all year so far that not one of them gets hot for more than 2 or 3 days.
Well, I mean, they're winning a lot of games. They're already 20 games over 500 at this point of the season. They're playing very good baseball. They're playing winning baseball. They've played great against big teams. They've demoralized most of the big teams. They've devoured the back of the Houston bullpen when they faced them. So they've done a good job in that regard. They're a very hard team to face they have to go through the lineup 3 times. Very hard to do against them with your pitching staff. They haven't had everybody get hot yet. That's true. If everybody got hot at the same time, I don't know. I don't think anybody could beat that team. Ryan in Breezy Point. What's up, Ryan?
Just first a general comment on the finals and then a little bit on LeBron. The only reason I wouldn't discount the next 2 games in Cleveland, Mike, is because I don't think I've seen any playoffs where the home road swings have been so bizarrely disparate. And we saw it in the last series. Boston blew their doors off in the first 2 games. I know it's a much different series, but I think they could get 1 or 2 in Cleveland just on the basis of these games swinging so much home and road. And now to LeBron,
I think they'll get one. I think they'll get 1 easy game in Cleveland, and then the other game will be a game they have to win. I think they'll probably not get blown out of the other game. It'll probably be a game they probably lose close, but I think they'll probably have 1 game where Golden State won't show up in the series.
It gets a little convoluted sometimes when things get tight. If they could steal 1 or 2 in Cleveland, and then you have a LeBron in a Game 6 or a Game 7. But anyway, on to LeBron. You've insinuated that he's kind of caught a bad break a little bit. Not a bad break, but a little bit of a bad rap where he has a lot of people rooting against him and and the assessments of him have been negative.
I've never once uttered that LeBron ever caught a bad rap. I don't know. That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
You had said that he would have a lot of people rooting against him in the finals, and he would get killed if he got blown out in the finals. No, what I said is people will. Oh no, the people who do root against him will hold it up that he loses another finals when he goes into a final that he has absolutely no chance to win. There's a reason for that, and I think for him, in comparison to a Jordan or these other seminal players, but in comparison to him,
you're going to do exactly what I said was going to happen. You're going to do it now after 2 games.
He had the opportunity to make his own roster in Cleveland, and he chose to surround himself with Tristan Thompson, and guys who he doesn't fit well with.
Oh, okay. So he could have put together a championship. Right. He should have brought in 3 or 4 more All-Stars. That was like Golden State did. That's what he should have done. Ryan, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's stupid, is what it is. You don't think he would have liked to bring in better players if he could have? Did he bring in great marginal players? No. Was there a great player he had a chance to bring in and he didn't bring in? Of course not. And again, that isn't LeBron James, the basketball player. That's LeBron James, the general manager, or LeBron James, the other side of the coin where you're talking about him off the court. I'm not talking about him off the court. I never said he had any ability off the court. Doesn't mean that just because he's LeBron James doesn't mean he knows how to build a team. We've seen it with Michael Jordan. He sure doesn't know how to build a team. We've seen it time and again. He doesn't know how to build a team. So it doesn't, just because you can do one doesn't mean you can do the other. My point was that this was a finals that could not be won. And so there's someone going to say, he lost another final, because that's how silly the reaction is when we knew he was going to lose this final. And that's why the game I saw in Game 2 was the game I didn't want to see again. All right? And I'm already bored with this series. I admit it. I mean, I don't expect much the rest of the way. I think there'll be a game, maybe Game 3. Hopefully it's 3, because if it's 4, no one cares. So if it's Game 3 and Golden State wins, nobody even cares about Game 4. So the point is, even if that game turns out to be 110-90, nobody still cares, because they go back and win Game 5. So again, nobody will be back in this series now. The nation won't be back in this series now until Cleveland wins for the second time. Then the nation's back in. If they can somehow win 2 games, then America's back in the series. Until then, they won't be back in. Game 4 will do a little better if Game 3 turns out to be a Cleveland game, until that is registered the other way. But America, in a big way, will not be back in this series now until Cleveland wins for the second time. Then they'd be back in a big way. Back after this.